Hi, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to take the liberty to start because we have a very busy and hopefully interactive session today. As you can see, with several panelists, 3 here in the room and several online, so we have a lot to go through. It's a pleasure to be here in this session that's co-organized by Oikocredit, a social investor based out of the Netherlands, and FinEquity, which is a global community of practice hosted by CGAP that's dedicated to women's economic empowerment through financial inclusion. I'm Maud de Montesquieu, I'm FinEquity's facilitator, and here on my right is Adama Ba, who works as a social performance analyst at Oikocredit, and on my left we have Naomi Otiti, who's a PhD research fellow in international business at the School of Business and Law at the University of Agder in Norway. Online, we have Isabel Baggio, the CEO of Banco Familia in Brazil. Bom dia, Senhora Isabela. And we have Mwangi Gitaiga, who's the managing director of the Kenya Women's Microfinance Bank in Kenya. And online, we also have my colleague Nisha Singh, FinEquity's Gender Transformative Solutions Technical Lead, and Nisha will be facilitating the online discussion. This is a good reminder to tell everyone that this is a hybrid session, and for those who are online, please feel free to actively engage. Nisha will be feeding the questions up to us, and they will be read out loud by Joanna from the European Microfinance Week organizing team, who will kindly seed those questions to us. So with that, I'm very excited about the session today, and I think it's a great runner-up from the fabulous previous session we had just right before lunch when we heard from Marielle Iskandaran and others how important it was to have a diverse, a gender-diverse workforce and leadership in order to better serve women as customers of financial inclusion. With that, I'd like to just give you a bit of an overview of the session now. In the next hour and 15 minutes, we'll highlight some of Oikocredit's efforts on increasing gender diversity in workforce and in leadership of some of their partner organizations. And we'll hear from 2 of their partner network institutions. Then we'll hear from Naomi about a recent research paper she has written on staff turnover in microfinance institutions. And then we will have a panel conversation with the panelists, including those online, and we'll do a small group exercise with those physically in the room, but also those who are online, and we'll wrap up together. So before we dive in, I'd like to turn to Adama to really get your thoughts. She's going to help us gather your thoughts of all of you in the room and in the virtual room about gender diversity and leadership. And she'll be building and reflecting on some of the analysis that Oikocredit has done on its own portfolio. So Adama, over to you for the polling.
Thank you, Aude. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adama Ba. I work as social performance analyst at Oikocredit. And just to give you a quick introduction of Oikocredit, social investor cooperative founded in 1975. So we actually, a few weeks ago, celebrated our 47th anniversary. And we work in 3 focus sectors: financial inclusion, agriculture, and renewable energy in 33 focus countries in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And just to get started, we have a quick poll to hear also your opinions about gender diversity in leadership. So you can now log in to the platform using your phone. And then you will see these questions now showing on your screen, and you can provide your answers. So you need to have the app to access the poll, right? So the first question is, do organizations with more women in leadership tend to serve predominantly women clients? So yes or no? So we have 4 votes now. Okay, it's increasing. So there's a predominant majority of participants who answer yes, so around 90%. Okay, so we'll move to the second question. Do financial inclusion service providers with more women in leadership tend to provide a wider range of products and services to their clients? Again, yes or no? Okay, I think the answers are clear. 100% of participants, at least participants think yes. So we'll move to the last question of this quick poll. Are FSPs with more women in leadership more likely to pursue poverty reduction as objective? And here again, 100% of respondents answer yes to this question. So we'll come back to that, but I guess, the message is clear. So now I'm going to talk to you about Oikocredit's portfolio. So first of all, a bit of background. Why is investing with the gender lens important for Oikocredit? So our objective since the foundation in the 70s is to promote social justice. And to do that, we tend to work with organizations that predominantly serve women as clients. And when women are targeted as a client, we think it's important that they are also at the decision-making table. But in itself, having more women in leadership means increasing economic opportunities for women, and that is in itself important for several reasons. So there's now a strong body of research that shows that increasing access leads to more inclusion. It also improves the bargaining position of women, so helps them take more part in the decision-making in their families, but also in the society in general. It is the key if we are to achieve empowerment and gender equality. And it is also shown to lead to significant improvement within families, so better outcomes for children, for example. And because it is so important for Oikocredit, it is an integral part of our investment process, meaning in the tools that we have to, for example, screen our partners, we collect information about that, and we also bring that in the dialogue with our partner organizations. And this means that we have in our system, in our portfolio, we have information about that. And today I'm presenting to you this analysis of Oikocredit's portfolio. So first, quickly showing what is the prevalence, so how many organizations we have with more women in their leadership. Then secondly, looking at what are the characteristics, the institutional characteristics of those organizations that have more women in their leadership, and how does that compare with organizations that have less women in their leadership. And the last one is more looking at what does that mean to have more women in leadership. And there I'm looking at some correlations with proxies of good decisions being made. And what I call good decisions are decisions that are more likely to work better for the end client. So when looking at the prevalence, so in the portfolio in the past 5 years, so this is only the microfinance portfolio of Oikocredit, you can see that over time is relatively stable. There's a slight decrease over the past few years, but around 30–40% of our partner organizations have more than 50% of women in their leadership. And by the way, I forgot to mention what I mean by women leadership. We look at women participation in board and senior management positions. And what you can see here is that there's not much change over time. And when looking even for the partners for which we have more than 1 year observation, you also see very little change over time. And second, as I mentioned, what are the characteristics of those organizations that have more women, and do they really significantly differ from organizations that have less than 50% of women? And what this graph shows you here are fixed characteristics, let's say, of institutions. So in terms of geographic location, that's the first on the left. In the middle graph is the legal form, so whether it's an NGO, a cooperative, a bank. And the last graph on the right is looking at the size, so the number of borrowers that are served, which can be considered to be, in the short term at least, fixed. And when looking at, so within our portfolio, you see that organizations with more than 50% of women in their leadership tend to be more represented in Latin America, more likely to be NGOs, more likely to be smaller organizations, so serving less than 10,000 borrowers. And on the other hand, organizations with less than 50% of women tend to be more likely to be banks, companies, and much more likely, significantly more likely to be larger organizations serving more than 100,000 borrowers. And then in the last bit, I'm looking at the correlation. So can you see, using this data from our portfolio, can you see signs of good decisions being made? So good decisions are the share of female clients, number of financial products, number of non-financial products, and whether the organization is pursuing poverty reduction. So remember the poll at the beginning. And if you're looking at, so based on Oikocredit's portfolio data, it is indeed the case that organizations with more women in their leadership tend to, you would answer yes for those organizations, basically. So all of you that answered yes were correct. And to what I find, I would say what is really remarkable to take away here is organizations here are divided in 3 groups. So it's not just 50% less or more, but is do you have less than 50% of women in board and senior management? The second column is do you have 50% in board or in management? And the last group is do you have at least 50% of women in both board and senior management. And that's where you see a significant difference. So for example, if you take pursuing poverty reduction as a social objective, organizations with more than 50% of women in both board and senior management have 10 percentage points more likely to be pursuing that objective. So this is saying basically it's not just having more women, but it's at all levels in the organization. And just a couple remarks to finish within, nice. To take away, for Oikocredit, it is important, and as I said, we have this in the dialogue with our partners. We can have that, for example, sometimes in a social covenant with partners, but it's something that takes time, and you can see that it's not really changing a lot over time. And here we are looking at women participation in leadership, and to have that showing in the data, there's a lot of things that need to happen. And over this period of 5 years, we're not seeing that it's changing a lot. At the same time, there's a really strong institutional characteristic of those organizations that tend to have more women in their leadership. So this suggests that it will not happen without deliberate, continuous interventions. And it is worth it because, at least based on our data, there's evidence that it matters. So it is not causal, obviously, it's a correlation, but nevertheless, quite sizable, and more importantly, it shows that women participation in leadership is at all levels important. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adama. This is a really, really important, and I think it resonates also with something that we heard before. It doesn't happen by chance. You need a very deliberate focus. So with that, I want to turn over to Naomi. Naomi is a PhD student, and she's going to tell us a bit more about gender diversity in the workforce. She's the winner of the Best Graduate Paper Award from the 7th European Research Conference in Microfinance that took place in Glasgow last year. And this award is sponsored by the e-MFP to incentivize young researchers to work in the financial inclusion field. So over to you, Naomi.
Thank you for the opportunity to present here. And I'm happy to say that as of now, I'm actually a graduated PhD student. Yeah. And yes, so I am going to briefly present my paper. It's titled Gender and Staff Turnover in Microfinance, the Moderating Role of Firm International Background. So the motivation of this paper actually lies in the fact that there's been a lot of women focus in microfinance. We know that most MFIs have women as majority of their clients. Some even say that microfinance is dubbed as a field that is gendered by design and purpose. But what I ask in this paper is, to what extent does this woman focus extend to the employees? After all, we know that these employees are also important in these firms. So employee gender has received attention, and particularly the female loan officers. There are some performance advantages. They are good for ensuring repayment behavior from clients. They are also good in, or they are better at male clients in terms of ensuring less discrimination. And also, they present certain gender affinity advantages, particularly when dealing with women in contexts where it's frowned upon for them to interact with male, especially when they are not married, okay? So despite these advantages, female employees are underrepresented in microfinance. And this could be for many reasons, but the main one is the social norms and practices in the society, okay? So in the society, they face issues, and also in the workplace, the microfinance institution. And ultimately, this is one of the reasons why staff turnover is more attributed to the women than to the male employees. Besides this, also the culture of an organization can influence how employees behave. And issues like the background of the organization, which is what I focus on in the microfinance. We have microfinance institutions that are internationally initiated. That means they have their origins from international actors outside the home country, and those that are locally initiated. So I want to find out how this background of a microfinance institution can influence the employee behavior. This graph here basically summarizes what I find. The blue line shows the locally initiated MFIs. That means they are from the home country, okay? Initiations from the home country. And what they show is that these firms tend to have high staff turnover related to the female employees. The red line is for the internationally initiated ones. And we see that there is significantly less turnover related to the female employees in these firms. So that's kind of where I am right now, trying to figure out why. Because in this study, I use a global database. That means it doesn't categorize different countries. But so far, what could this mean for, financial service providers? Does it suggest a need for a human resource-based approach in terms of gender? Is there a need for, more HR policies that are in favor of women employees? Does it suggest a need for a women-friendly working environment in microfinance? Those are the questions I ask in this paper. But I think the main take-home for me in this paper is that still it's important to not just focus on women as the center of microfinance, as clients, but also at the front of microfinance as the employees, because of the advantages they present, but also because when we give them the opportunity to work in microfinance, we are contributing to gender equality. So that's my paper. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's really interesting and questions the positive role that an investor can play in bringing more diversity to financial service providers' workforce. So thank you very much, Naomi. I want now to turn to our online panelists and start the panel discussion with them. First, I'd like to introduce Isabel Baggio from Banco da Família. Banco da Família is a Tier 3 financial institution in Brazil, which has partnered with Oikocredit since 2004, and currently about 2/3 of their senior management and board members are women. So I think Isabel is going to speak in the form of a video, so if you could please launch that video. Thank you.
Olá, sou Isabel Baggio, presidente e fundadora do Banco da Família, uma organização de microfinanças sediada na cidade de Lages, estado de Santa Catarina, sul do Brasil. O Banco da Família nasce em 1998 por uma iniciativa das mulheres, Núcleo de Mulheres Empresárias, da Associação Empresarial da cidade de Lages. Percebemos na época que existia uma necessidade muito intensa das pessoas terem acesso ao crédito, principalmente as mulheres. E incluímos, então, o Banco Mundial da Mulher, o Women's World Banking, que tinha e tem até hoje uma experiência bastante vitoriosa em microfinanças ao redor do mundo. Operamos desde 1999, iniciamos com poucos créditos, claro, porque tínhamos ainda muito que experienciar e muito que aprender, e fomos crescendo ao longo do tempo. Chegando em 2003, percebemos a necessidade de uma maior abrangência, de maiores serviços financeiros, e então decidimos trocar o nome Banco da Mulher para Banco da Família. Durante esse período de 24 anos, já fizemos 400 mil operações de crédito, atendendo 1,5 milhão de pessoas, nos valores de 1 bilhão e 200 milhões de reais emprestados. Hoje somos a maior operação de microfinanças do sul do Brasil, nos 3 estados. Temos 164 colaboradores, em sua grande maioria mulheres, e isto distribuído em todos os graus hierárquicos da organização. A nossa escolha, preferencialmente por mulheres, se deve ao fato de que o setor de microfinanças tem particularidades que são melhor observadas pelo público feminino. Eu salientaria como a criatividade, a sensibilidade, olhar para os detalhes e ter mais empatia para perceber a situação das pessoas. Dessa maneira, nós temos uma análise de crédito mais qualificada, uma percepção mais aguçada e resultados mais eficientes para a nossa organização. A estratégia de retenção e atração de talentos é a confiança. Essa é a palavra-chave para que as pessoas estejam conosco. É muito importante também que as pessoas cumpram e estejam de acordo com os nossos valores. Nós trabalhamos para a melhoria da qualidade de vida através da inclusão financeira pelas microfinanças. Essas pessoas que trabalham conosco devem entender muito bem o nosso propósito, os nossos valores, para termos uma relação de confiança duradoura e que consiga, através de todo esse conjunto de ações, dar melhoria da qualidade de vida e atender dignamente os nossos clientes. Os grandes desafios enfrentados para o início dessa organização, eu diria que, primeiramente, foi a falta de crédito num projeto inovador. Muito difícil uma mulher estar sendo presidente de uma associação empresarial e criar um projeto praticamente inexistente. Então, era algo que as pessoas não sabiam muito bem o que seria e muito menos sabiam se seria algo factível e que pudesse dar certo. Então, foi necessário muita fé, muita perseverança, muita crença na possibilidade de ter um projeto inovador e, além de tudo, este projeto inovador apoiar pessoas que tinham necessidade de acesso ao crédito. Eu acredito que sempre é possível, com coerência, ajudar as pessoas. E foi nesse sentido que o Banco da Família foi criado e é nesse sentido que ele é gerido até agora. O mundo evoluiu muito, vemos que existe bastante crescimento da participação feminina, mas ainda temos muito que evoluir. E nesse sentido, o Banco da Família, além de valorizar o acesso ao crédito para mulheres, criou também outros programas que contribuem para a inclusão das mulheres no mercado de trabalho de várias formas. Sendo assim, nós criamos um programa de educação financeira que tem por objetivo fomentar com que as pessoas busquem o conhecimento de como lidar com o seu orçamento, como manejar as suas contas e como manejar o seu acesso ao recurso. Além do programa de educação financeira, criamos também o programa Produtores da Serra. Este programa tem por objetivo fomentar canais de venda para pessoas que têm pequenos negócios de alimentos da agricultura familiar. Temos também o programa Despertar, que é uma plataforma onde as pessoas analisam a sua situação de vida através de gamificação e se localizam em que status se encontram. É um projeto criado pela Fundação Paraguaia, trazido com exclusividade para o Brasil. Buscamos essa ferramenta que chamamos Despertar para que as pessoas se conscientizem através da visualização em que situação familiares se encontram e que possam atuar para minimizar as suas dificuldades. Os benefícios observados ao longo desses 24 anos se referem à evolução percebida pelas quais as nossas mulheres passaram. São as clientes, são as colaboradoras, são as associadas, toda a equipe do Banco da Família e a sociedade em geral. O exercício da cidadania, a independência financeira, a coragem, a autonomia, a perseverança são alguns dos benefícios que trouxeram a partir do acesso. O crédito é muito mais do que simplesmente um desembolso financeiro. Ele traz em si várias melhorias e as melhorias todas, consolidadas ao longo do tempo, transformam as pessoas de forma que elas se empoderem e tratem a sua própria vida fazendo melhores escolhas, enfim. As mulheres são mais corajosas, são mais decididas, são mais autônomas e, claro, são mais felizes.
Obrigada, Isabella, para essa. We're now going to turn to Mwangi Gitaiga from Kenya Women's Microfinance Bank. Kenya Women's Microfinance Bank is a partner of Oikocredit and is currently has a board that's comprised of 2/3 of women on board, and senior management, is comprised of women. So, Mwangi, over to you.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be with you. And I had a slide that is supposed to be shared. Maybe you can share my slide. My slide, thank you. Thank you. First is to introduce the institution. Kenya Women Microfinance Bank was started about 40 years ago, and purely to be able to focus on women empowerment issues. But for us, we decided to focus on women empowerment from an economic point of view. So at the moment, we have a mission which is to partner with women in creation of wealth, and we serve about 800,000 women across the whole country. We have about 220 branches, and we have a staff capacity of 2009. Out of that 2,000 employees, 1,099 are women. And our target market is women and their families. And we are owned by various institutions, but mainly we would say 67% of the ownership of the bank is women, based there. It's owned by women. So the institution focuses on the triple bottom line approach. That is where we look at social impact, both at the customer level and at the employees level, and also other stakeholders. And also, we focus on the environment, that is planet, and we focus on sustainability both at the customer level and also at the institutional level. We, through the focus on the triple bottom line, we mainly target the 17 SDGs, and among them is the number 5, which is focused on gender. So as an institution, we have a very strong focus on women, both at workplace and also at our customer. And well, among the values that we have is to partner with women in creation of wealth. So we are guided, and since the 40 years that when we were formed, we are guided primarily to put women at the front and make sure that their issues are dealt with. And the reason why the institution was formed 40 years ago is to be able to make sure that women are not only served, but they are included. So if you look at the work, the ownership of the organization, the organization is 67% owned by women. But at the same time, we have subscribed to the women empowerment principles. That is the 7 principles that guide the women empowerment principle at the UN level. And the 3 key pillars is focusing on women at workplace, focus on women at marketplace, and also focus on women at the community level. And the reason we do that is because Kenya, 52% of Kenyan population is women, and the organization feels very, very strongly and stands firmly that without including women in the middle of it, then we are not being able to serve the country well. So the reasons why we adopted the gender diversity and focusing to make sure that women are included is to make sure that we also are able to benchmark properly and introduce to the institution the best, the industry best practice, close the gender gap that has been there, that sometimes we say deliberately it has been put there, and I am not sure whether it's deliberately put there by the male, or it's by the system, or it's by the community. And then at the same time be able to promote a positive work environment, then drive solutions that promote the dignity of women. And I agree with the voting that went through that where women are in leadership, where we have majority of women in leadership of an organization, there is a very strong tendency for the organization to serve women and to come up with solutions that are able to and products that are able to serve women interests. Then the other issue is we also strongly believe that women are as good as men. That is why we take our daughters to school. And because of that, then we believe women should not only be included at being served, not only in ownership, but also be put in the workplace, both at the board level and also at the employment level. Then the other reason is to enhance teamwork, because women are part of the society. We need to have them included meaningfully also in the workplace, and also be able to enhance staff retention, because women also are just like men, they are able to push the agenda of the institution forward. So as an institution, if you look at the way the institution is structured, 67% of the board members of KWFT are women, and this is hard-coded in the constitution, and also in the constitution of the institution, it's put clearly that the share of the board must be a woman. So 67% are women, and the share must be a woman. Then when you look at the employment, we have 56% of our employees are women, which is a very good representation of our population, because 52% of the Kenyan population are women and 48 are men. So with 56% of women being employees, then that shows that we are actually picking from the society the way it is. Then 48% of our leadership, that is management, are women. So when you come to the institution, we also make policies that are deliberately meant to be able to give women a voice and to give them a position that enhances safety, security, and protection at workplace. And when we come to recruitment, we also make sure that recruitment, promotion, and reward system is genuinely handled. It's fair. Women are given a fair chance. If a woman and a man tie, then when we are doing interviews or we are promoting, then we give the woman the chance, because we know women have a longer journey to climb. They have a steeper climb to do, because when they are at home, they also double up as homemakers. Their workload is much more. So we always give women a little bit of bias when we come to promotion, but we promote women who are capable. We do not just give them promotions because they are women. Then when it comes to training, and first of all, when we come to pay, we have an equal system where women and men are treated the same. Then training, women are also given a chance just like everybody else. So we also have a membership. Because of that, we are members of UN Global Compact, where the issues relating to sustainable financing is discussed. And we also have subscribed to Women Empowerment Principle. So to ensure that women are taken care of, what we do is we also make sure that, because women are life givers, they are the ones who will go for maternity leave, they look after babies, and then they have to come to workplace and compete with the men who they left behind and who may now have competitive advantage over them. We make sure that women are comfortable as much as possible. We give them maternity leave. We give them 1 or 2 weeks ahead of before they go on maternity. Then we also make sure that for the men who are in the institution, they get their paternity leave. We also have a medical cover for maternity to make sure that women do not have any challenge. There's multiple pregnancy, or they are twins or triplets, then we increase our maternity to make sure that the woman is as comfortable as possible. Then
Thank you, Mr. Mwangi. Thank you. I know that you were going to talk about the challenges of promoting gender diversity within your bank. Let's keep that because we need to manage time here. Let's keep that for one of the questions. With that, Mr. Mwangi, don't worry, we'll come back to that point, but I want to give a bit of space to the room to ask questions, and also we have Isabella from Banco da Familia online. I'd like to give an opportunity for those online and in the room to ask questions. While you get ready, I want to ask Isabella a first question about Banco da Familia, but please be ready to ask questions from the room or online. I think the microphones will be coming to you. So, Isabel, como que você conseguiu aumentar a participação de mulheres empregadas em cargos de liderança e empregadas ao longo do tempo em Banco da Família? How did you manage to increase the level of female staff in the workforce and in leadership in Banco da Família?
Vai falando para mim.
O Banco da Família
Bank of Family is an institution that was created
há 24 anos,
24 years ago,
quando eu estava
when
na
I was
presidência
actually
associação,
a president,
presidência da associação,
and I was a president of the association.
a presidente de Lages, da Associação Empresarial de Lages.
I was working in Lages, in my state. Can you guys hear me? Joanna, can you hear? Joanna, can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's continue. I'm the translator. Okay, go ahead.
Em seguida, nós percebemos que a
After that,
comunidade
we noticed that the
de
community
Lages,
of
onde
Lages,
nós nascemos, tinha
where we were
carência
born,
muito grande de acesso ao crédito.
they needed credit.
Dessa maneira, as
way,
empresas da cidade e do estado de Santa
and
Catarina
the state of Santa Catarina,
criamos o
we
projeto
created
e
the project,
começamos a trabalhar
and
no
we
sentido
started
de criar
working
uma instituição
to
para operar
create an
microfinanças e assim
institution to operate
atender as
microfinances and then
necessidades
serve the needs
das pessoas.
of the people.
Inicialmente, nós
Initially,
nascemos como Banco da
We
Mulher,
started as Bank of Woman, or Banco da Mulher.
inspirados
We were
na
inspired
criação
in
da
the
instituição
creation of the
Banco Mundial da
institution
Mulher,
Banco Mundial da Mulher,
Uniform
World
Bank,
Bank of Women,
que ainda existe hoje, uma organização
that still
internacional,
exists
que
today.
nós
It
ainda
is an
somos
international organization.
parceiros,
We are still partners with them.
em função de que no Brasil, naquela
Because in
época, nós
Brazil,
não
at
tínhamos
that period,
experiências
we didn't have
ainda
experience
bastante
enough.
exitosas. E por isso nós sempre nos
So
inspiramos
we
na
always got
experiência
inspired
internacional,
in the
que nos
international
mostrava muito
experiences that
eficiente
showed us
e muito impactante às pessoas de baixa
efficiently
renda.
How the low-income people were impacted.
Então,
then,
nós já começamos
we
com um olhar
started
feminino,
looking
porque,
with
como eu sou
a
fundadora
female
e
eye.
até agora
Since I'm the
sou
founder and
presidente
so
do
far
conselho,
I have been the president of
foi
the
de maneira
council,
bastante
this
natural a
happened in a very
participação de
natural and
mulheres.
smooth way. The
Hoje,
participation of
Isabel,
women
em
is
todos
very
os
smooth.
níveis
All right.
de
Yes.
Isabel, I think it's really difficult for us to understand because of the translation. I'm really sorry, but I think we're going to have
Why is it difficult to hear the translation? Can't you
just
hear me?
difficult to understand. I'd like to open up to the room to ask, do you have questions?
Why is it hard to understand? Just tell me what's going on. Volume?
We hear the two voices at the same time, so it's very difficult to understand what's going on.
Okay, so what do you want us to do?
Yeah, so maybe, thank you, Anne.
You want Isabel to
maybe
speak
Isabel
Portuguese?
speaks very rapidly just to this point of how did you increase the share of women staff? How did you manage to do that? And then the translator, if you can kindly translate after Isabel has spoken. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Let's do it again. Ask the question, please, and she's going to do, and we're going to do consecutively. Can you please ask your question again?
So how did you go about increasing the share of female staff and leadership? How did you make that change happen?
Well, since I was the founder of the organization and I'm a woman myself, the whole thing was seamless. It seemed to be natural to start hiring women and to start getting more women in the participation. Is it good like that?
Way better. Thank you very much. So
sure. So let's keep doing that. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, so I see someone at the back here, and there's someone on the right near the camera. If you can bring the microphones.
Thank you. So I'm Noémie Renier from Incofin. I have one question for you, either Mr. Mwangi or Isabel. Actually, something that comes back very often when we challenge board for the lack of female representations, we cannot find female board member. I would like to ask you, what will you answer to that statement? Yeah.
And can we take another question? I think there was one there.
It's better to ask one question at a time, please. Let's answer that, and then you ask again another question, okay? Let's answer that. Okay, Isabel. Two aspects are very important to me. The first one is the eye of the recruiter, the eye that who is hiring is important. And the second point is, just a second. And the second point is that do women really feel comfortable being sometimes, leaders in the board because they feel that there are more risks to be taken, and sometimes the challenge is too much.
Thank you. Can I go to the question from the back here, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erica. I'm from the Philippines. I work for Negros Women for Tomorrow Foundation. I actually typed my question in the chat box, but since I'm given the opportunity to speak up, I just ask it here. So, how can the organization close the gender gap within the workplace? What can be done to ensure that there are enough women on the table to make decisions?
Mr. Mwangi, do you want to take that? So how can institutions close the gender gap? What can be done?
Thank you very much. I think for us, what we did is the issue relating to gender inclusivity is in our document of formation. That is our memo and articles, and it is deliberately put there. It's very, very clear, especially at the board level. 2/3 of the board members must be women, and one of them must be the chair. And we do not have a problem with that. That we have done for the last over 40 years. When we come to management, it is we actually included into our HR policy that the issue of gender inclusivity is taken care of. So in our practice, in our documents of doing our management and the governance, everything is included there, and it is clearly stipulated that that is the agenda of the institution at all levels.
Thank you. I'd like Joanna to turn to you. Are there any questions you want to raise from the chat box? The mic is coming.
Yes, there is a question from Alba Herrera. How many of HR staff comes with a business background, and how many HR staff comes with good branch background? And I think this is for Naomi, actually.
Sorry, can you just repeat a bit?
How many of HR staff comes with a business background?
Oh, yeah.
And how many HR staff comes with good branch background?
Well, I use a global data set that does not have these intricate details about the human resource background. And that's why I say that my paper was basically a preliminary, at a preliminary stage. So I need to find a case to investigate to what extent this goes. But thank you for that question.
So thank you.
Sorry,
I think
Alba is asking that for Banco da Familia as well, if Isabel can answer the question.
Okay, over to you, Isabel.
Can you please repeat the question?
How many of
for
the
Isabel?
HR staff comes with a business background and with a good branch background?
So it depends because it really depends because the partners that were pretty much the founders of Banco da Familia years ago, they were the one who made the indications, the recommendations. So it really depends what level. I mean, the companies are from different areas, branches of many kinds of organizations, don't not only the financial organizations. And just one more point that she's going to end here. Just a sec.
Esse percentual,
The majority of people from supervision to management came from other sectors that not the financial sector though. And from this percentage,
hoje, no quadro
nowadays, in our collaborators, our staff, 71.28% are women and only 27% are men. And these people came from different sectors of the economy, not only financial sectors, but many other sectors.
mais uma resposta para ela.
Yeah, and then Isabel wants to add one more thing.
So thank you very much. I'd like to now turn to small groups. Thank you for making the effort. I know it's not easy in this hybrid format. I'd like now to turn to small groups. There will actually be two groups that are online and we'll discuss online. And then we'll have two groups in the room. And can you roughly stand up and roughly turn to one side or the other side? If you can bring up the questions. So the two groups online will be discussing questions 1 and 2. And the two groups in the room, the people to the right, my right here, will discuss question number 3. What are the challenges and possible solutions for the promotion and advancement of women within FSPs? And those to the left here, my left, will discuss how do you set business performance targets that promote diversity. Now, what we're looking for in the group discussions is please surface any examples you have, good practices, concrete ideas that you have been using within your contexts. And please remember to designate a rapporteur, and you have 7 minutes for this exercise.
Hi, Joanna. Are we both in the same room?
No, no, you need to join one. So you need to join group room 1 and I will join room 2, maybe?
I'm sorry. So I'll join room 1. Okay.
Yes?
And I'm doing question 1, just to
1,
be
yes,
clear.
yes.
Okay.
And I will join room 2. Mwangi and Isabel, I think you can choose the room to join as well if you want.
Hi, is one of the hosts here? I'm trying to join the breakout room that I'm supposed to facilitate, but I cannot. It won't let me in.
I think it's just a question of looking at examples that you have experienced. So whoever wants to go first, any examples of
Hi, everyone. If you can make sure you designate your rapporteur, and you have 1 more minute. Everyone, 1 more minute. Please designate your rapporteur. Okay, time up. Adama, can I call you back? I know it feels like my mic is not working. Thank you, everyone. Can I ask you? Thank you, everyone. Can I ask you to wrap up? My mic doesn't work. Can you say?
Thank you, everyone. We will wrap up. Is there someone, one table, that would like to share a key takeaway from your group discussion?
Hey, we can't get your attention here. I think everyone is very passionate about the subject and eager to talk to each other. So we'd like to hear from you.
Yes, exactly.
We would like to hear from you. Can the mics come up and maybe we can share? Are there people in the room who want to share from their small groups? I know that there's a table there at the back, the table with Corinne and others.
Well, I had a really good table here. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Yeah. Okay. We had a really good discussion here. We talked quite a bit about promotion and the idea of how extra miles, going the extra mile at work for women may not be a feasible proposition always in order to get a promotion. It just may not be possible with respect to going beyond work hours, as well as networking at typically male-dominated locations. So women may miss out on promotions if that's kind of what's required in that type of environment. So how do we compare apples to apples was really the conversation. And we got to kind of two major points, which was, and group, back me up if I'm saying anything incorrect, but two suggestions. One was that perhaps we can have a promotion pool where women are competing against women and men are competing against men, but not only that, kind of looking at the KPIs that the FSPs are working towards and all of the individuals within the workforce are, and adding more gender-sensitive KPIs. So, for example, perhaps customer reach or products sold per day could be more tailored towards women clients, or solving longer-term relationship types of systematic issues, like we heard about from the speakers around trust and building that. There's more to say, but I'll just pause because I'm sure other tables want to hear.
Can you give the microphone to someone on a group on the other side if you want to talk about your discussion in your small group? And then Nisha, be ready. I'll call upon your group and Joanna's group online. Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me well? Yeah. So we discussed question number 4 about setting targets and business objectives and how to monitor that. I think the discussion started with really identify where you are, because you cannot set targets like a standard way of, like a template, because it will depend on where your business is at the moment and where you want to go. And we spoke about how realistic these targets should be, obviously with a long-term perspective of setting based on a SMART type of, when I say SMART, is like the typical sensible, measurable, etc. All these targets, putting them in a different time scale, so you can really achieve them. And I think the other point we discussed is some MFIs we saw that are mainly women, which is has specific particularities, but that as well might be lack of diversity, because then you have no male, which might have an advantage of having that diversity in the MFI. So I think we touched that base, and then the last point, we spoke maybe about diversity, not only gender diversity, but we spoke about different types of culture diversity, background diversity, nationality diversity that can really shape and contribute.
Thank you very much.
So just wanted to add on. That's why this is a good discussion also for us. It was also mind-opening for me that he was able to share that in the future. I know that this is about gender diversity, but the discussion about diversity per se does not just stop there. So this was, I like the discussion in the table moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I turn to the online group? Joanna? Joanna should have the mic, please.
Thank you, Odd. I think we had a little less time than you because it took a bit time to do the groups. But on the question of the innovative solutions for recruitment of women in FSPs, we had the first comment on how important it is to have people on the board and on the HR that are women and that are examples that can be a reference for people that are applying for the FSP. And also we have a comment from someone from Banco da Familia saying that the jobs roles sometimes are not attractive to women. In Banco da Familia, so a lot of their female employees left after the pandemic to work at organizations that were a better fit for them, such as cooperatives. But we didn't get to the part of the how to overcome this. We will need to continue the conversation. And I'm going to pass to Daniel for the group one.
So we had a couple of observations from group one. And so we had Alba, who pointed out that what she has seen in her work with banks especially was that staff in branches don't tend to have clear career goals in mind themselves. And then that's kind of combined with the fact that the HR of the institution also doesn't have that developed for staff who work in branches. So you have sort of, a vague sense of neither knows where they're going, and that's a real big contributor to turnover. And then Mwangi shared his observation that for women who are mothers or of childbearing age, they really have these strong obstacles in pursuing their career goals. And that's kind of, you get the social stereotypes added on to that, what the expectations for women are. And that's been the problem that he has seen in his experience. So that's from our group.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that those are interesting examples. A few things I take away is the importance of having good HR policies in place, both in the recruitment but also in the promotion of women. I think there's a strong point that came up on monitoring, having the right KPIs, setting realistic targets. Someone said on the right here, to realistic targets and monitor if you're reaching them, both in terms of diversity in your workforce, but also in your leadership positions. Then I think there was an interesting point about recognizing the value of diversity. I don't think it came up as strongly, but I'm going to take the liberty also to introduce the notion that the institutions who do have more diversity in their workforce and in their leadership also do good for themselves in a business sense. And we need to recognize that diversity is also a driver of good business. And I like the point you made from the Philippines about diversity. Obviously here it's about gender diversity, but also recognizing the value of diversity in all its forms. And finally, I think there were some interesting comments about the importance of having positive role models and really putting women up as CEOs matters, but also I think it was Karine from Foncosé in the previous session who said it's important to show you can have a female credit agent on a motorbike in trousers, and we need to promote that kind of diversity and make these people more visible. So with that, I want to thank you for actively and even being unstoppable in your small group discussions. And I want just to take a moment to say that FinEquity has put together a knowledge guide on gender diversity and women's leadership, which really brings together a selection of the most relevant practical resources and tools to help institutions increase the gender diversity in their workforce and in their leadership. And these tools, it's a curated list of tools that are designed by a series of organizations represented in part in the room, but IMF, Women's World Banking, UNCDF, ProMujer, IFC, tools that we have selected because they can really help financial service providers increase the gender diversity within their organizations. And what I just want to say before we wrap up is that this resource guide has been produced in collaboration with USAID, but has really benefited from the input of the FinEquity community of practice, and we're committed to updating this periodically. So please engage with us. If you have tools that you think are useful, that can contribute, please engage with us. With this, I'm just going to say that all the material from this session will be posted online. Adama has just been interviewed for a vlog on the FinDev Gateway site, and we will use that as a vehicle to bring together some of this precious content we had here, not always easy to understand and interpret from this hybrid format, but very precious. We'll bring together the presentations, the videos, the content in this wrap-up vlog and associated blog on the FinDev Gateway. So again, with that, I want to thank the panelists. Obrigada, Senhora Isabel. Thank you, Mr. Mwangi. Thank you, Naomi, Adama, for co-organizing this with us. Thank you very much.